Have you found a way these days to naturally increase your testosterone as you age? You mentioned you're almost 50 years old, and I think a lot of people listening to this, whether they're younger than that, definitely as they're getting older, how do you go about maintaining a healthy level of testosterone?
It's a super great question. In fact, I'm going to be launching a series probably this quarter with some of the best experts on the world on this topic because it's a topic that I think is crushing the men in civilized countries. Just to give you a perspective, I want to context what I'm going to share with people first. Today, the average 20-year-old has the testosterone levels of a 70-year-old man in the 1970s. Think about that for a second, right? Now, why is that? Well, part of it is xenoestrogens, the use of plastics that are disrupting hormonal cycle and causing an advent and production of estrogen. The second part is extremely high levels of cortisol due to looking into screens all the time, blue light stimulation, electromagnetic pollution, lack of exercise in fitness, and I'd say a dysregulation of the natural um, aptitudes and behaviors of men throughout history. And that's oftentimes cultured as toxic masculinity, which I think is a very damaging and ineffective label that has been applied ubiquitously to men today. And I don't think it's doing men any service. And I don't think it's doing women any service either. I think that we have to navigate the world of that. And that pressure has altered how men behave. And some of those alterations, let's face it, are good. They're positive to be more aware, to be more conscientious, dealing with other women. But there has been a removal of quote men being men or men being around men or men supporting men in environments that are only men oriented. And I think there is an importance in the difference in the sexes and the groups that they can drew and the understandings and relationships they develop. And I think it's a big part of it. But then we have all these toxic chemicals that are contributing. So I'll give you a real example. Most of the biohackers I know and most of the internet marketers I know are using testosterone replacement therapy. Many of these guys started in their early to mid 30s and moving forward. They don't talk about it in their diets, they don't advertise it. And I'm one of the few that doesn't. I'm not saying that as a badge of honor. I'm saying it that I believe that TRT in hormone therapy, bioidentical hormones and stuff, is a great therapy and should be used as the final resort. Because once you enter into that game, you can't go back. Once you're not going to be able to recover from it. So you want to align as many of the factors to maximize your your optimal level of hormones beforehand. Then, when it gets to the point where there's no other resort, when you do go in that route, you're going to get better results and you're going to be able to maintain those results for a longer period of time. Usually 20, 30 years is typically where people seem to be able to handle exogenous hormone manipulation until they crash and burn. That's what I've noticed from the bodybuilding community. And TRT is not the same as taking anabolics for athletic performance. It's a very big difference. So a few years ago, I was working I was running three different companies. I was using stimulants to keep myself up, lots of caffeine and nootropics and things like that. It was a lot of nervous system burners. I was under a very stressful business situation with a partner that was keeping me up late. My sleep cycles were dysregulated. I was living in a foreign country, which was having trouble integration. I was in my house a lot of the time. And I got into a very high cortisol state, so much that my brain didn't operate properly. My cortisol levels were through the roof. I was also dieting. I was into a very low body fat level. I was training in the morning, running on a treadmill, working out in the afternoon, staying on a calorie restricted diet, working 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. I did that for about 2 years and was living in hell. And so I had to pull back, again, extreme nature. So I had to drop one of the businesses. I had my brain tested. I was getting no electrical energy in my brain. My cortisol levels were through the roof. My magnesium levels had crashed because I had exhausted all my magnesium reserves. I was trying to address my cortisol issue, and my testosterone levels were in the toilet. It was around 200. And for that's where people would do testosterone replacement therapy. So I worked with a doctor, a naturopathic doctor who had expertise in that area. And I was like, okay, what do you need to get to? And I said, he's like, you probably should think about testosterone replacement. I said, well, let me address the magnesium deficiency, got some B12 stuff. Let me change my lifestyle around here. Let me get off my computer a little bit more. Let me cut one of these businesses that cuts the stress. Let's move back to a place which is more holistic. Let's take some rest time and let's make all these adjustments. We developed a magnesium product out of that, which turned out to be great, which really helped. I took super physiological doses of magnesium to get my nervous system back re-regulated so I could sleep better and relax more and not be so stressed out and have that cortisol response. And right now, that's a few years later, I've got my testosterone levels to just under 600 naturally. And so, and that's, it's rise up. And I certainly feel a lot better than they did, drive, energy, sense of well-being, mood, performance, muscularity, all of those things have improved concordantly with that process. I feel awesome. I'm shooting to get into that 800 to 1,000. The sweet spot for a man is in that 800 to 1,000 level. That's where you'd love to be at. And so I'm not there yet. So I've been engaging in a series of experiments continuously to get to that point. And we've got one more series coming over the next that we're going to experiment over. Right now I'm in the middle of a testing series to kind of knock out every single factor: heavy metal, uh, GI tract testing, blood sugar regulation testing, hormonal. Like I'm doing this whole array to knock out every single possible factor inside of this. And then I've got a really awesome set of uh, herbal extracts, which I'm going to leverage next. I'm going to see how high I can get it there. And then I think I can get it up into that 800 zone, certainly over 600 and maybe 700 and up and over to 800 without any of those things. And I'm going to keep it there as long as I can. And then when I drop off eventually, which will happen as I age, then I can use my testosterone replacement therapy sometime after 50. So my deadline to hit it was 50. I said, okay, if I can't hit it by 50, then I go that way. But we've reversed the trend so that we're trending in the right direction. We'll see what happens. So you'll have to ask me in about 18 months. I'm literally a year and just over a year away from my 50th birthday. So that will be the testing point. If I hit 50 and I'm not at that level, it's like, okay.
Do you think going from 600 to 800 to 1,000, you'll feel a subjective difference in your
Yeah.
day-to-day well-being?
Yes. 100%. Where particularly you notice it is recovery from training. So, for example, I work with a guy. Um, he's around my age. He's at the highest level of success in the world. He's a fairly famous person, and he's got a testosterone level up over the 800s, and his capacity to train and recover and his on it in business and where he's at is truly exceptional. And all his friends are on TRT and anabolics, and they were like, hey, man, if you want to hit these physique goals, you need to do this. And I sat him down and I said, look, yeah, you can gain 10 pounds of muscle, 15 pounds of muscle. You want to go over that? I said, but you're in the sweet spot for your age. Why not play the long game? Why not see how long you can maintain that? Then if you need it at 55 or at 60 years old, you got another 20, 30 years of run where you're going to be in that sweet for like play the long game on this one. And, he's taken that advice and we've worked on him. And right now we've been working with this individual for just over a year. And last year, just was before we started, he had a skiing accident where he shattered his leg. And they said it was going to be so long for him to come back. Well, this year, not only is he recovered, he's back. He's more muscular. He's leaner than he's ever been. He's training harder than he's ever been. He's killing it in his business. He feels amazing. And he said he's never felt better in his life. And I don't know what would have happened had we gone down the testosterone replacement therapy mode or the anabolic road. And those are two derivatives of the same function. But he's happy that he held off.
You mentioned the herbs there and that being a later stage experiment you're going to get into. For people that want, maybe they're getting close to thinking about going on, hormone replacement therapy. What are some of those herbs people could look into and try before they get there?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to caveat this a little bit because the problem there's two main problems when you're referring to herbal extracts in order to enhance hormonal optimization. So when you're looking at enhancing testosterone, and there's two things. You want to change your testosterone to estrogen ratio and get them in an optimal zone. And part of that's lowering cortisol. It's creating testosterone enhancing, and then as you come down the derivatives of DHEA, and then it splits, and then it splits, and it splits into these derivatives, and it can go down an estrogenic pathway, and it go down an anabolic pathway. And for me, I produce lots of DHEA, and I'm going to caveat your under because I want to talk about the endocrine stuff without getting too detailed. But for me, I had high levels of DHEA, but when it was going through its conversion process, it was going down an estrogenic pathway instead of a testosterone-based pathway. And part of the issue was the conversion using zinc. I needed to up my zinc and selenium levels, which aided in the conversion. Instead of it going estrogenization it went over to the anabolic testosterone production. The second thing that I had to do is I had to suppress my cortisol levels. So I had to go off coffee for a year. Right. And then and I noticed I was depleting my magnesium. So I super supplemented with magnesium levels, which calmed down my nervous system in concordant with dropping my caffeine hits and reducing my workload so that I offset my cortisol. So a lot of people will look at this and say, I just want testosterone benefits, or I just want to drop estrogens or whatever. And they don't work independently. And this is why you need expertise to manage those things. And that's one of the problems when people look at herbal concoctions. They say, oh, I can take Tongkat Ali, and that's going to increase my testosterone levels. Well, maybe. You might find that if you're low in essential fatty acids, that you can add essential fatty acids, and that's going to increase your testosterone level. You might find that if you're low in zinc, that you increase zinc and you have higher testosterone levels. You might find if you drop caffeine out of your life, your cortisol levels will drop, or you cut your screen time on blue light. So there is why I'm going to do this series is because I want to create a systematized approach of here are all the factors that are pushing down your testosterone. Here are all the factors that are increasing your estrogen. Here are all the factors that are affecting your cortisol levels. And here are all the factors that are letting your sleep. And here are all your vitamins and mineral deficiencies that are present, and your essential fatty acid deficiency, and your dietary. Now we've got the full picture. And a person can systematically go down each one of these lists, knock off these, increase these, decrease these, focus on these, and looking at the self holistically, as opposed to just throwing some hormones on top of what you didn't figure out in the first place. Because the thing about if when you increase your testosterone levels, okay, or any hormone level, hormones accelerate metabolic processes. Okay? So if your body has downregulated hormones in your body, there's a reason for it. There's some process in your body that's not operating the way it should be. And if I just throw hormones on top of it, like testosterone and growth hormone and these things, which are very common inside of the longevity performance-based society, without addressing the fundamental nutritional flaws and lifestyle flaws in my system, all I'm doing, I'm just putting more horsepower in the dragster. I'm just going to get to the crash point in the turn in the road where I'm not going to make the turn. So I'm going to get there faster. I need to change the handling system in the car first before I up the engine power. And so turn my dragster into a performance car so I can handle the curves of life. And so it's a balance between absolute raw power with refinement of the elements that get there. And so I'm working with a world-class chemist. I literally have the concoctions sitting here in my fridge right now at this moment, which is a vast array of extracts that are all combined uniquely in a unique formula in order to do that testing. But I'm not engaging in that. It's been sitting in my fridge for 2 months because I'm not complete all of the things that I've done at this point to make sure I've covered all my bases. And then I'm going to do this interview series with experts in those areas to address all the points that I don't know, because there's areas that I've got holes in. I'll address those. And once I've done all that, I'll retest again. And then it's like, okay, now I'm ready to go try that one. And then I can get a legitimate result of the absolute aspects of that. But most often, to answer your question specifically, DHEA, that's the precursor. High levels of zinc, I think for most people is a good thing. It's 30 milligrams a day. You can get that tested. You can do a SpectraCell test. High levels of magnesium. Limit your screen time. Make sure that you get lots of sleep. Then you can get into things like Tongkat Ali, Tribulus terrestris, usually are good. And then there's a whole cornucopia of things that kind of go down from that. Some of them I won't reveal because I think a lot of people don't know about them, so I'm going to keep that off the radar until we get finished. But I think most people would do better addressing these other areas first before they go down TRT.